Want a tight core without a tight back? You're gonna want to watch this. Hi, I'm Scott, coach, rehab and movement specialist. Now I know you're probably keen to get on with this, so if you feel like you've got control of your core, then please skip to that part, follow the exercise tutorials and then move on to the workout itself. However, if you are like 99% of the rest of the world, when we do our core work that maybe we get a little bit more back pain or those hip flexors get really tight, then you're going to want to give me this number of seconds and I'm going to give you the very basics of what we're achieving with this top to toe core workout today. First up, your first exercise is going to work from the bottom up. What I mean by that is you're going to be getting the pelvis coming up towards the ribs. Now, how are you going to do that? Essentially, you are going to squeeze your glutes. That is going to give you that posterior pelvic tilt. Now, why do we even do that? The main reason we want to do that is one, it works the core, but two, it also switches off the hip flexors, or it certainly relaxes them through something called reciprocal inhibition. Now, I said I wouldn't get geeky here, but essentially when you're doing one thing, you can't do another. And in this case, when your glutes and hamstrings are fired up there, the hip flexors get a little bit of a break because they don't work at the same time. But that is essentially what you're trying to do. Now, this comes in throughout the workout. You want to maintain that posterior pelvic tilt. Not so hard that your veins are pumping out your head. It's a contraction of the glutes so that you are holding that posterior pelvic tilt, and then you'll be working the pelvis in that rocking motion, which then works the core. So let's move on. Next up, we're going to talk about the obliques. Now, everyone's aware of where they are, but they're very unaware of how they work. Essentially, the external obliques, the ones that you see, the ones that look nice, run down across the body in a diagonal fashion, and the internal obliques, they run up. So how do we attack both at the same time? Well, as you'll notice in this workout here, I add a few rotational exercises. Now that way we are hitting both ways at the same time. Again, without getting geeky, essentially what you want to do is maintain a posterior pelvic tilt and not just bend at the side here. You want to be controlling that move down. So when we are coming down here, we're going to be working those pretty muscles, the ones you see. And when the hip is coming up in that core twisting motion there with that posterior pelvic tilt, then we're working those internal obliques. That again is as geeky as I'm going to get. But how is the best way to do this in a practical way without overthinking it? We get in those rotational movements there. So we are creating movement, rotational movement, but we are in control the whole time. That is how you're going to work those obliques, and you're going to sculpt those obliques by doing so. Next up, we're talking top down, like so. Now, what am I even talking about? Essentially, this is that crunch type action, but hold up. We are not going to do the typical kind of pull your head down, pull it towards your knees kind of crunching here. We're going to do it the smart way. We're going to do it the sensible way, the way that's going to work your core and not give you neck ache. So here what we are doing is looking to get those ribs down. Now, essentially a good way of doing this is to breathe out through pursed lips, like so. Then those ribs are going to come down. Now, what you want to do is essentially get that position going on here. Now, as you do that, as you get those ribs down, you're also going to notice how the upper back, the shoulders come off of the floor if you're laying on the floor in this type of situation. Now, that is where you are working the core. The core is responsible for that action, as opposed to just simply pulling yourself forward there, trying to get your head, shoulders towards your knees. Now, that will be more driven by the back and the hips and everything else working, but much less so your core. So here we're going to maintain that position. That is why a lot of the crunch moves in this exercise, in this workout, don't actually look that impressive. It doesn't have to look impressive to be impressive. So we're going to get those ribs down. So when we come to that part of the workout, you're going to pick the exercise that works best for you to create that top down effect there, and that's how you're going to work the upper part of the core. Before we move on to the last step, in my opinion the most important step, we're just going to talk about the transverse abdominis. Now here, see this as like a corset or a belt that goes around the waist, gives you a nice trim waist, holds everything in. I'm not going to go into this because this can get quite deep, but I'm going to give you one cue that works the transverse abdominis very well. That is breathing out through pursed lips. What do I mean by that? Like so. So we literally put our lips together and we breathe out. We're restricting the air coming out, but we're letting it come out. By doing so, you're going to get that transverse abdominis working those deeper muscles of the core. That's as much as I'm going to touch that. That one single cue will help you work the transverse abdominis, that along with a pelvic tilt, and you're really going to be working the body very efficiently. You're going to be working the core extremely efficiently. Finally, the one I've been waiting for, the serratus anterior. I put this at the end of every single core workout I program for people and I do for myself. Essentially here, what the serratus anterior does is help keep your shoulder blade up against the ribs, so we don't get that unattractive flaring of the shoulder blade. It also keeps you posturally very, very tight, and that is a good thing. So the serratus anterior works along with the upper body and the core to bring everything together, and that is why I like it so much, because it is so functional. And at the end of the workout, we come into this very simple action here. It's simple, but it's not easy to work the serratus anterior. So that will be the end of the workout, the sign off, if you like, to your full core workout. So that's it, the coaching element of the core workout done. If you didn't get any of that, go away, do a shot of espresso, come back, watch it again. If you still don't get it, then go away, do a shot of something a bit stronger, come back, watch it again, then practice it, and then you are going to be ready to take on this core workout. So first up, we're going to focus on our 4 exercises, pick one of them that focuses on that bottom up movement. So our first exercise on the bottoms up movement is the rocking reverse crunch. So here you can see how the upper body is remaining very still. Here we have the ribs down, but the pelvis is coming up towards the ribs. So we're using that action there of getting the pelvis up to work the lower abdominals. As you see here, the feet aren't swinging around. It's very controlled. Notice how we've got the hands open, facing the ceiling. And that way we're going to keep the upper body open as well. So it's a very controlled move. Second up, we're going to our 45-degree floating crunch. Now the name kind of says it all here. We're in that 45-degree angle. The same motion with the legs. Again, it's nice and controlled. We are not rocking in that position. We are squeezing the pelvis up towards the ribs. Again, you can see here with the feet moving nice and controlled. So it's a very controlled movement throughout. Next up, we are coming to the 45-degree ab infinity action. Now, I love this exercise here. Notice how the back is not moving. It's nice and straight. Now we are working the core really dynamically. We're also working the obliques. Really, this does work the entire core, but the focus here is that bottoms up movement, which is gonna primarily focus on the lower abs. Next up, we're on to the iron butterfly. Now here we are incorporating a lot of control along with that down up movement. Although the upper body is moving, you'll notice it's staying fairly straight in the spine there. So we're not getting a crunching action. We are simply moving the entire body. This requires an extra amount of control. This is one to build to. Next up, we turn our focus to the obliques. So here you've got 4 exercises. Yet again, pick one of them that best challenges you and your obliques. The cross knee bridge crunch. Okay, this really is quite a unique oblique exercise here. Notice how the bottom is off the floor. We've got the glutes squeezed here, and the knee that is up, that is the side where you're really going to feel the obliques working on that side. We are driving our arms up into the air in front of us here, but with the knee up, you're going to get more focus on the obliques as you go through this action. So second up, we're coming to our hovering side slides. Now, you may have seen this action before, but notice here how the bottom is off the floor. Again, we've got that bridge position, the glutes are squeezed. That's going to turn off the hip flexors. It's also going to keep those hips nice and still. And notice how the upper body is coming down towards the hips here. That's going to give you a really nice oblique contraction and control the whole time without those hip flexors kicking in. Third up, we are coming to a more traditional elbow to knee style crunch, but notice the V-type sit-up position here. We're not using momentum, we're holding that V-type position, then we're bringing the elbow to the knee, so we're twisting the upper body in and the knee is coming up to meet the elbow. That way we are working the internal and external obliques all in one go in a very controlled manner. And finally, we have the extending elbow to knee twist. I love this exercise here. Notice how the knee is coming up in a sprinter type action, then it extends out like in a dead bug type position here. So we're getting full range of motion on those obliques, and you have to work incredibly hard on the lowering phase. That is when those obliques are going to be working eccentrically, and that is a really good thing. Obviously you're going to do it on both sides, so as you come up again you're controlling that downward move, but you're controlling the entire move on this very dynamic oblique exercise. Next up, we're looking at the top down. So we're focusing on the upper abs here. We've got 4 exercises. Pick one of them, the one that challenges you the most and is most appropriate for you and your body. The bridge rainbow crunch. So here we've got the ribs down, we've also got those glutes squeezed, we've got the pelvic tilt going on here, so the hip flexors are well and truly turned off, and now we're getting that top down action, a traditional style crunch. But notice how the arms are coming up in a rainbow style here. That way we're dynamically working that upper core region. This really is a great version of a traditional crunch style exercise. Second up, we're going to come to our straight leg reach. Now, as I was just very animated about there, we're driving those legs into the floor, so make sure you do the same. That way we're going to also get some glute squeeze going on here. We're going to block out those hip flexors as we come up into that top down movement. Again, we're reaching towards the ceiling, and that is really going to work those upper abs very well indeed. Next up, we come to the straight leg reaching halos. Now this looks very similar, except obviously we're moving our arms around this halo style, this circle style. So here we're not only working the upper core here, we're working the obliques as well. Make sure you're in control the whole time. Don't let momentum throw you around. It's a very controlled movement, keeping those ribs down, and that's what's going to keep those shoulders off the floor. Finally, we come to the 90-90 crunch. Now this looks more like a traditional style crunch, except the legs are up, they're in a floating type position. You really want to lock out those hips, keep those legs from moving. You want to be moving your upper body towards your knees in this case here. So it's a very controlled crunch. And finally, you don't have any choices here. We are laser focused on the serratus anterior with our serratus press plank. Now this really is a star exercise, as I've already said before. Here we've got the glute squeeze, we've got that pelvic tilt going on, we've got the ribs down, so we're almost in a crunch position, hence the reason why the bottom slightly comes up into the air. We're driving those elbows into the floor. Doing so is going to allow those shoulder blades to glide over the ribs, as you see here. And at the top of the position, we're really driving those elbows into the floor. That's really going to heighten the amount of activity within the serratus anterior. Take your time with this exercise, use good form, and you're really going to get excellent results from doing it. So there you have it, your complete core workout that hits all areas of the core. Nothing is left untouched. You pick the exercise that best suits you, you go through it for up to 60 seconds. All the details are on the screen now as I suggest them. If you can't hold on with good form for 60 seconds, then rest for your recovery time and then pick up on the next exercise, finishing finally with your serratus anterior exercise, and then you have completed your complete core workout. So that's it, you have everything you need. Actually, no you don't. I've also created a follow along core workout for you based on all the exercises that we've just covered. So here you just pick the exercise that works for you, press play, follow along, have the recoveries as they're set out there, you have all the timings that you need there, and that is going to give you a complete follow along core workout. And finally, make sure you click that subscribe button below to make sure that you are notified about exercises, workouts, and nutritional information that's coming your way. Also check out theworkingbody.com for your instant plans as well as online coaching.
you.